So here's our walkthrough for the 2022 Winnebago Travato 59K. So we'll start off looking at the inside of the coach. You can see it's pretty spacious, the twin bed set up there, standard in the 59K. Here's the galley area, basically the kitchen, right? Here we're looking at our convection oven / microwave. And it's pretty easy to set up. You also have some kitchen storage here. We've got a drawer full of some utensils, cutting boards, some cups and such. And then down below are your cooking pots and pans and some extra towels. There's also a little bit of storage right behind the driver's section. It's lockable right now. It's just used for tools and such, but you're free to use whatever you'd like. And there's a little bit of some trash can and such there behind the driver's seat. Taking a look at more of the countertop, we've got a Keurig coffee maker. If you raise the little pedestal outlets, you can plug that in. There's 2 outlets there as well as 2 USBs. We've got the Keurig assorted flavors that you can take advantage of as well. Everything you need to wash up, soap and dish soap and paper towels, everything you need. Also some under cabinet lighting, which is push button, and a little spice rack back there behind with some salt and pepper. Of course, we've got the refrigerator, and the fridge here is pretty spacious. You can fit just about everything you need for a short weekend trip or a short week trip, with freezer and some ice in there. When you're done, of course, you just need to make sure that you close that so it doesn't open in transit. We also have some drawer storage there for cooking utensils. So everything you need to make a good meal. And there's also an additional workspace area. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. We'll show you how that comes out. Here we've got lots of above counter storage. Here you're going to find some plates, some cups, some cleaning supplies, some oil, everything you need for the galley. Back in the bedroom area, you've got lots of storage above the beds, places to put clothes or whatnot. Plenty of space there for everything you need. There's also some space for some storage underneath the beds, and we'll show that in just a little bit as well. And underneath the overhead storage, right above the beds, we've got some fans that are mounted on these ram mount tracks. There's a couple of ways that you can connect. There's also a reading light in the corner. One tap is blue. Press and hold and you get to white, and then just press again and it's off. There's a little tray that drops down as well, magnetic, and you can store things, your wallet, your phones, iPad, whatever. And there's actually an iPhone, iPad cord there. And that's connected to the USB ports that are behind that pillow there at the head of each bed. All the controls for the coach are located above the sliding door. The power control system is just showing you kind of what's powered up. There's not much to that one, but the one that is important is this one-place control panel. Here's where you can find one of the switches for the water pump. There's 2 other places, and we'll show you that in a little bit. But you can turn the water pump on and off there when you want water out of the faucets. Here's where you can also see the tank levels. Here you can see the fresh water and the propane are full, but the gray and black are empty. The battery levels, in case you need to know that for some reason. You get the generator options on the right there. The meter there shows how many hours the generator has been ran, and then you've got start and stop. It's currently running, so I'm going to just stop that, and there it's stopped. Now let's take a look at the Truma system. This is what controls all the heat as well as the hot water in the coach. You can see here the first dial actually is looking at control of the heat. Unless it's wintertime, you shouldn't need to worry about this at all, but it's there just in case. I'm going to back out of this. Oops, I got back into it again, so I'm going to have to back out of that again. Just want to make sure it's off. Alright, Now the hot water is of course important, and the hot water, if you click on it, shows three different settings in addition to off. And so you've got off, you've got eco, you've got hot, and you've got boost. For eco, it turns the hot water heating elements on and off throughout the day if you have that set, kind of just to conserve power. Hot will have the heating system on the entire time, and that'll heat water throughout the day if you have it on. And then boost will give you pretty quick, within 15 minutes of a hot shower or so. And then you've got the different mixes. You can go electric, all gas. That can control what the power that's heating those elements are going to be for. And there's also a vent where you can vent some more air within the coach if it's too hot. Also has controls for the 1000 watt pure sine wave inverter. This of course is going to be needed if you want to run any major appliances right off the batteries. But this will not, of course, run really large appliances such as the air conditioner or the microwave. And you also have a switch here for the propane flow. There's also a switch on the outside of the coach, which I'll show you a little bit later. And finally, there's a holding tank heater, which is really for the fresh water to keep it from freezing in the winter. You shouldn't need that. And finally, there's a monitor for the batteries, and that's located just above the passenger side bed, so you can see what your battery levels look like. Now let's take a look at some of the entertainment features. Right above that passenger side bed, we've got the remote controls for the soundbar and television, and those are velcroed there to secure in place. There's your television as well as a Bluetooth soundbar located there below it. You also have the option of adding another device such as a DVD or Blu-ray player or an iPad with some connections that are also in this cabinet, along with some games and a fly swatter. And you've got the same setup underneath the passenger side bed with the fan, drop down tray. Additionally, there's some light switches there for the coach. Additionally, there's a remote control up underneath here that controls the MaxAir Fan, which is great for ventilation, especially when it's hot outside and you want to have the windows open, or if it's cool outside, really, if you want to have the windows open, and that'll allow for some generous airflow. Here you can see the fan raising and bending that air. And when you're done, just turn it off and replace the remote. Now let's head up to the front of the coach again. Take a look at the Lagun mount table. These tables are great because they provide a lot of flexibility. Of course, you can see where it's mounted on the bed. You've got a lot of different controls which allow you to be flexible in how you want to position your table. You can work it like a workstation here. You can position it to where it's more like a table that is in between the two beds, so you can use it for dining, or you can just swing it out of the way. Now this can mount right there on that passenger side bed, or there's also another mount which is located right on the pedestal near the sliding door. Also on this pedestal you have some power outlets, 2 power outlets and 2 USBs. You've got a handle here to help you get up into the coach on the outside, where we've also put a little hook there to hook anything like trash bags or grocery bags or whatnot. On the other side of the door, we've got a couple of switches at the base of the bed. There's a kind of the coach switch, which you can turn off all the batteries. You probably don't want to do that ever, so leave that one alone. We also got some switches for the awning system, of course in and out. And so if you click on the awning, you'll see that the awning will start to extend from the coach. Now the awning can be stopped at any time during that extension. You just have to click the button again, the out or the in button. This is very important when you're maybe camped to another building or an RV close by. and you just click the in button again in order to retract it and bring it back into the coach. There's also some LED lights that are up underneath that awning, and the light switch for those LEDs is right next to the awning button. The windows of the coach are dual pane acrylic windows, and they will extend away from the coach. There's two different settings that allow more or less air in, and they'll catch at different spots. And then you've got also built-in shades that pull down from the top, as well as blackout, which blacks things out in the bottom. Once you're ready to bring it back in, you just kind of push up on the glass, let it drop down, not fall, but drop a little bit and catch that. And here's what the blackout shades look like. Now, I mentioned before that there is quite a bit of storage that's located under these beds. So if we pull up on the bed frames itself, you'll see that there's ample storage underneath this one, the passenger side bed, much more than what we find on the driver's side bed. Really, you just have a small little waterproof cubby there, as well as another one back towards the back inset. You also below that have a vent for the heater, and on the passenger side there's a fuse box as well as a breaker box. Now let's take a look inside the bathroom. The bathrooms in a Class B are always pretty small and tight, but it's got everything you need. It's a wet bath, and so it's going to have your shower and toilet all in one. There's your shower head, and of course you get a sink there. Here we've got a little vanity and medicine cabinet with shelving and storage for everything you need. We've got the water pump. There's another water pump switch in addition to the one I showed you earlier on the control panel, and an on-off switch for the lights. Of course, your water for your shower. Here's the drop-down sink. The sink basically just folds up to release the water. Turn the water pump on and you get water flow. Of course, you're done, and then you just lift that back up. Position that faucet where it's supposed to go, turn off that pump, and then you're done. The toilet empties directly into the black waste tank. After you've done your business, there's a foot lever on the side that you'll press down in order for that to go down into that black tank. There's also a sprayer that, when you have the foot lever pressed, will wash out that toilet. And here's the waterproof toilet paper container. The shower curtain is positioned on a track that will go all the way around from the shower nozzle all the way back to the medicine cabinet. There's a vent fan also that you can use to vent some exhaust, some steam, make things a little cooler. Here's the wardrobe. It's pretty spacious. It's got movable, adjustable shelving. There's also a clothing rod that can be used for hanging up clothes, but that also means less shelf space if you do so. Here's a drawer down below where you can put some things. Right now we've got some towels in there if you need the towels. There's not a true bathroom door on this. You just slide the curtain closed when you want some privacy. So that's basically the living space for the 2022 Winnebago Travato 59K. Now we're going to head outside and show you the screens that are used to allow for better ventilation when needed. They just snap and then of course drop, and then you can just zip those down on each side. The side closest to the front of the cab will have a magnetic strip so they can slide together and magnet together. You just kind of have to pull those together. And then there's a little strap there that you can use to just pull on and enter the coach without having to unzip. And then you just pull those back together. There's also a screen over the door in the back. It does not, however, have the magnetic sides like the one in the front. Now let's take a look at the cab section. Here you've got some overhead lighting for the cab. You've got a bright and a dim switch, and that's right off that switch we were just looking at. I also want to show you the chairs, these ultra leather chairs. They're extremely comfortable, great to ride in. There are several compartments in the cab area that are good for storing things. Here on the passenger side in the dash, you've got a little area here. You've got some area around there where the lap would be, as well as the glove compartment where you can store some important documents. That's where you'll see those. There's also lots of great storage on the passenger side and the driver's side doors. Get some USB connections, cup holders, everything you need for a comfortable ride. Just underneath the steering wheel next to the gear shift, you've also got some inputs for USB and auxiliary. This is where you would plug in something if you want CarPlay, Apple CarPlay, or the Android equivalent. And there's the storage that you find, and as well as the emergency brake. I mentioned before that there's a workbench prep table that's right behind the driver's seat. In order to access that, you're going to pull that seat completely forward, rotate the seat 90 degrees using that lever right there. Then you're going to be able to drop that little plastic strap, extend that table, and then flip that table towards the galley. And then you've got a nice little workspace there. If you combine that with the Lagun Table that we've already talked about, then you've got a nice workspace to prep all your meals. Of course, just to return that table back to where it was, just reverse those steps, swivel or flip that around, make sure you snap that back into place. I also want to show you while I'm down here, there's a trash can as well as a receptacle for a lot of trash bags that you can use. There's also some USBs back there. Then you can just return the chair as it was. The passenger seat can also be moved around and face 180 degrees or backwards. In order to do so, you have to move that seat completely forward and then rotate the seat. On each of the seat belts, you'll see that we've provided some seat belt adjusters that can be used to kind of pull that seat belt off your neck when it's engaged. There's additional storage just above the cab. Here's where you will find the user's manuals and some information about the coach in case you need that. Now let's take a look at the outside of the coach. There's several connections that you'll find around the coach. Here you've got just some 120 volt outlets. Here you've got a place where you can connect satellite or cable television and a 12 volt outlet. And if you have an additional solar panel, you can plug that in right there. There's some very convenient running boards with some tie down brackets for tying things down, maybe a dog or so, whatever. There's also an LED light up underneath that running board. There's some lights there to light up the outside, and there's some LED lights up underneath the awning. That's the awning right there. Now we can move around to the back. This does come with an optional bike rack which we can install. Here's the attached ladder which allows you to access the roof. Up on the roof you've got your two solar panels totaling 215 watts of solar power that help to charge those two deep cycle batteries that come with the coach. Here behind this tire you've got some very important things, primarily how you dump the sewage, those black and gray tank. So that's where you connect the hose, and then you've got the gray lever on the bottom and the black lever on top. You always want to flush the black first, close it, and then flush the gray. There's those levers, and there's the exhaust right there for the generator. Here's the exhaust for the Truma heating system. Down here is the storage compartment for the sewer hose, as well as the propane fill area, as well as a switch, an external switch for the propane tank that should be off while driving down the road. And here's where you plug in your 30 amp power cord to the shore power. When you are truly connected, that top lid will light up to let you know that you have some power. And here's where you put in your fuel, unleaded gasoline. You also have a nice driver's side running board with LED and tie downs. And that's the outside of the 2022 Winnebago Travato 59K. Now let's take a look at the back of the coach and where the controls for all the water come into the coach. There's of course a view of the rear bath. There are some magnetic pawns which will attach to the door and help keep the shower curtain away from you. You just put that shower curtain in between those pawns and the door and it works great. Both rear doors also have a blackout shade which just folds up real nicely and keeps those temperatures down in the back. Alright, now attached to this back wall we've got some hangers, we have our 30 amp cord hanging. We've also got a 25-foot freshwater hose. There's also some light up there. Let's take a look at those water controls real quick. They're fairly easy to follow. If you're going to dry camp, that's what you're going to be using when you're out and about. If you want to fill it, you'll see that. I've actually put together another video on how to fill the tank, so I encourage you to look at that. I'll put a link in the description. Here's also the third water pump switch. So there are, of course, 3 of those around the coach. Now let's take a look at some of the storage we find here in the back. Here underneath the toilet, we've got a little nook that has some latex gloves, which are very important when handling all the sewage hose and such. Also in here is an adapter that goes on the end of that sewage hose, which allows you to put it down into a sewage receptacle at a campsite or at a dump station. And over here on the right, we've got a squeegee. Help clean those windows in the front. It telescopes out to the perfect length in order to clean those front windows. Got a water filter in here that helps to fill that water. Again, check out that link in the description below about how to fill the water. And then we've also got a outdoor shower curtain, so you can do an outdoor shower if you wanted to. In order to set up that outdoor shower, these metal poles here that are attached, they actually attach to the door on either side, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Here's what that shower rod going across looks like. Then you're just going to pull out that shower curtain, and it just velcros around that rod. And you can magnet the sides to it using those magnetic pawns if you want to. Now the shower itself is right there above the water controls. You got hot and cold, and then in this little storage compartment above it you've got the little shower hose. And right now I've just got a little stopper in it just to stop the water from flowing out too much while it's in that compartment. You just take that out, you stick it into the receptacle there, turn on that water pump right there. You can always tell when it's on, it's red, and then it starts to put out water. And on that shower head you can control the amount of water that's coming out as well as the consistency of the volume. And here it looks like it's pretty low pressure, but I've only got one of those dials turned. It does get a lot more pressure. And when you're done with the outdoor shower, just make sure you turn off the pump. Drain the water as much as possible out of that hose so you don't get any water in the coach. and then you just plug it back up if that little anchor is still attached. Also in this storage compartment above where the water is, you'll find several adapters that are necessary for the electrical. You've got a 30 amp surge protector. This is what you will plug into the power source from the shore power. And then you'll just plug the 30 amp power cord into that. Here's a 50 amp adapter. If your campsite or shore power is only 50 amp, that'll allow you to go 50 to 30. And here is a plug that'll allow you to go from 30 amp to 110, but that won't allow you to power much. Here's a tire repair and air pump kit. The coach does not come with a spare tire, and so that's what they give you. And there's also a jack back there at the back of that compartment. Taking a look at the top of the coach in the back, you've got a digital antenna which will allow you to receive a digital signal and transfer that to the television. You'll have to scan the television signal every time you stop. And down here you've got an external propane hookup. If you have an external propane device or grill or so, you can just put that in there. Now let's take a look one more time inside the cab, taking a look at some of the driver's side features. The hum GPS tracker and vehicle health monitor is located underneath the dash. As with the passenger side seat, the driver's side seat comes with a seat belt adjustment. It also has lumbar support and other seat positioning dials. It does have a battery boost switch, which allows you to jump the battery of the coach or the generator off of whichever one is working. And so if you have a dead battery, that's extremely important for that. So let's start this baby up. When you start it up, of course, it comes up with all the gauges working. This is where you'll want to make sure there's no warning lights. On the left-hand side, you'll find the light switches for the headlights. And then down below the headlights, the controls for the cruise control. To initiate the cruise control, you'll just turn the little dial upward, and then you'll see that the instrument panel shows you that the cruise is on. And then you will push up with a lever or down with a lever to set it, as well as accelerate, and then there's also a cancel and resume there. And like most modern vehicles, this Ram ProMaster 3500 has steering wheel controls for the radio and Bluetooth to phone. And on the right hand side of the steering wheel is your windshield wiper controls. And the last thing to point out, underneath the air conditioner controls, you'll find the hazards, the fog lights, as well as this switch right here, which will lock and unlock all of the doors on the coach. And that's really great when you're trying to figure out where the key is in the night and you want to lock up all of the doors. I wanted to show how to control the radio, but because the light is so bright outside, the camera's not picking it up, and so I have to post that later. Now, a really great feature that you'll find on this RV is the rear view camera. And this is a camera that was mounted just below the digital antenna, just above the back door. And it shows a real-time view of what's behind you. It's not a backup camera. And if you don't want the rear view camera on, you can just flip it up and it becomes a mirror. And there you have the 2022 Winnebago Travato 59K.